The Space Academy was quiet at night. All the cadets had gone back to their quarters, the lights in the long hallways were dim, and the only sound was the soft hum of machines keeping the great station alive. Most people never noticed how lonely. The academy became after hours, but the janitor did. He was always the last one left, pushing his cleaning cart down the empty corridors, polishing the floors, and making sure everything was in order before morning. He was not a soldier, not a scientist, not even a teacher, just a janitor. Nobody looked twice at him in the daylight hours. Cadets hurried past him with proud steps, officers ignored him, and even the kitchen staff spoke to him only when they had to. But at night, when everyone else was gone, the academy belonged to him. He had learned to like the silence, though. Sometimes it felt too heavy, like the whole universe was pressing down on his shoulders. That night, as he cleaned near the old storage rooms, something strange happened. He heard a sound. At first it was faint, almost like the whine of a vent, but then he stopped and listened more carefully. It was not a vent. It was a voice. No, it was two voices, rising and falling together in harmony. The janitor froze, mop still in his hands. Music did not belong in these halls. This was a place of discipline and orders, not art. Curious, he followed the sound, rolling his cart slowly so the wheels would not squeak too loud. The voices grew clearer with every step, soft but strong. Filled with something he had not heard in years, emotion, he stopped outside one of the smaller storage rooms. The door was half open, and the faint light from inside spilled onto the corridor. He peeked in carefully, and what he saw made him blink twice. Two young aliens stood in the middle of the room. They were twins. Everyone at the academy knew them, though nobody paid them much attention. They were quiet, awkward, and always kept to themselves. Most cadets mocked them for being different. Nobody believed they could do anything useful. But here they were, standing close together, eyes closed, singing like no one was watching. Their voices were unlike anything the janitor had ever heard. One voice was soft and smooth, the other sharp and bright, and together they wove a melody. That seemed too perfect for words. The air itself seemed to hum with their harmony, and the janitor felt his chest tighten. He forgot about the mop in his hand, forgot about the dust on the floor. For a moment, all that existed was the song. Then the song stopped. The twins opened their eyes and saw him. They froze, their faces tensed with fear, like they had been caught doing something forbidden. The taller twin took a step forward, his voice nervous. "You shouldn't be here," he said. His words were accented but clear. The janitor raised his hand slowly. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't mean to scare you. I was just cleaning. I heard something." The shorter twin narrowed her eyes. "You heard us," she whispered, almost like it was a crime. The janitor nodded. He wanted to choose his words carefully. "You sing," he said softly. "Beautifully." For a moment, silence filled the room. The twins looked at each other, then back at him. Nobody had ever said that to them before. Most people laughed when they even mentioned music. Music was not part of the academy's training, and for aliens like them, it was almost a joke. The taller twin shook his head. "No one believes us," he muttered. "They think it is useless. They say aliens cannot sing, that our voices mean nothing." The janitor stepped inside the room, leaving his cart by the door. He spoke slowly with honesty. "Then they're wrong." The twins stared at him as if he were from another world. No one had ever stood on their side before. No one had cared enough to listen. For the first time they felt seen. The janitor smiled, a small, tired smile. "You shouldn't hide this," he said quietly. "You have something rare, something real." The shorter twin lowered her gaze. "If others know, they will laugh again, or worse." The janitor nodded. He understood. He had been invisible most of his life. Nobody cared about janitors either. But he also knew what he had just heard was not ordinary. It was not just music. It was power. "I'll keep your secret," he said softly. "But I'd like to hear you again, if you'll let me." The twins looked at each other. Their expressions were unsure, but there was a spark of hope in their eyes. Slowly, the taller twin gave a small nod. "Maybe," he said, "but only when the academy sleeps." The janitor left them that night with his heart pounding. As he pushed his cart down the empty hallway again, he felt something stirring inside him. For years he had been invisible, forgotten, just another man sweeping the floors. But now he knew a secret that no one else in the academy believed, a secret that could change everything. And as the echoes of their song stayed in his ears, he realized one thing: he would not let those voices be silenced. The next evening, the janitor returned to his duties as usual. He swept the halls, polished the glass, and carried his cart down the academy's silent corridors. But his mind was not on the floors or the walls. His thoughts were with the two alien twins in the storage room. The sound of their singing still echoed inside him, like it had carved a space in his chest that could never be filled with silence again. He did not expect to hear them again so soon. But as he passed the same storage room, faint vibrations touched his ears. This time, he knew what they were. Music. Their voices. He stood at the door for a moment, torn between duty and curiosity. Part of him wanted to leave them alone, to respect their privacy. But the other part, the part that still burned from hearing that impossible harmony, would not let him walk away. He opened the door softly and stepped inside. The twins stopped at once. Their eyes flashed with alarm. "You again?" the taller twin said, his tone sharp this time. The janitor raised his hands. "I said I'd keep your secret, and I meant it." His voice was calm, steady. "I just wanted to hear you again." The shorter twin crossed her arms, her face uncertain. "Why?" The janitor looked around the room. Dusty crates, broken chairs, old equipment, all forgotten things. He sighed. "Because I know what it feels like to be invisible, to have something inside you that no one else sees but your voices. They're not invisible. They're brighter than anything I've heard in my life." The twins stared at him, puzzled. Nobody had spoken to them like this before. The taller twin's shoulders relaxed slightly, though his voice still carried doubt. "You think it is? Beautiful?" "I don't just think it," the janitor replied. "I know it." For the first time, the shorter twin's expression softened. She whispered, "We were told never to sing here. They laughed the first time we tried. They said it was noise, not music." The janitor stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then they don't understand. Show me again, please." The twins exchanged a long, silent look. Then, almost reluctantly, they nodded. They closed their eyes and began. At first, their voices were soft, like a thread of sound weaving gently through the air. Then, slowly, the harmony grew stronger. The janitor felt his chest vibrate with every note. The walls of the storage room seemed to shiver. The light overhead flickered. The old crates rattled faintly as if alive. It was not just music. It was not just music. It was energy. The janitor's mouth fell open slightly. His ears caught the beauty, but his bones felt the power. He glanced at the twins, so young, so unsure, yet their voices carried something more than human, more than alien. It was like the universe itself was bending to listen. The song stopped. The shorter twin opened her eyes and studied him. "Now you know," she said quietly. The janitor nodded slowly, still stunned. "Your voices, they're not only music. They do something. They change things." The taller twin looked away, shame flickering on his face. "That is why we hide it. If the academy learns, they will not call it music. They will call it a weapon." The janitor's chest tightened. He could see the truth in their eyes. These twins were not just singers. They carried a force inside them that no one else could control. If the academy discovered it, they would never be free again. "You're right to hide," the janitor said softly. "But don't ever think your gift is worthless. It's not." The shorter twin tilted her head, her voice trembling. "Why do you care? You are not like us. You are only a janitor." The janitor gave a small, weary smile. "Maybe that's why I care, because nobody expects anything from me either. I've spent my life cleaning up after others, while they chase glory. But you have something worth protecting. If no one else will stand with you, then I will." For a long moment, the room was silent, except for the faint hum of the lights. The twins looked at him with wide eyes, as if trying to decide if his words were true. Finally, the taller twin whispered, "You are strange, human." But maybe not like the others. The janitor chuckled softly. I'll take that as a compliment. The shorter twin took a step forward. If we let you hear us again, you must promise. No one else. Not a word. Promise, the janitor said without hesitation. Your secret stays with me. The twins nodded. For the first time, a fragile trust began to form in that dusty storage room. That night, as the janitor left and pushed his cart down the silent hallway, he felt changed. He had seen the Academy's cadets train with weapons, with machines, with endless drills, yet none of it compared to the raw, strange power he had just witnessed. Nobody believed the alien twins could sing, but he knew the truth, and in his heart, he wondered if their voices could move walls and shake the air.
What
else could they do? The Academy was never kind to outsiders. Every day, cadets from different worlds trained with sharp pride, carrying themselves as if they already ruled the stars. They competed in combat, strategy, and discipline, but art had no place in there. Schedule music to them was weakness, something soft in a place built on steel. The alien twins knew this well. They kept their secret hidden in dusty corners, away from watchful eyes. But whispers had begun to spread. Someone had heard a faint hum late at night. Someone else claimed they had seen the janitor near the storage rooms, lingering too long. The Academy loved rumors, and soon those whispers grew into mocking laughter. It happened in the cafeteria. The janitor was cleaning near the far tables when a group of cadets cornered the twins. Trays slammed, boots scraped, and a voice rang out above the chatter. "Hey, singers," one cadet sneered, his mouth twisting into a grin. "Why don't you give us a performance? We could use a laugh." The twins froze. Their trays shook in their hands. Dozens of eyes turned toward them, some curious, most cruel. The shorter twin lowered her head, but the taller one stood stiff, trying to hide his fear. "We do not sing," he muttered. The cadets burst into laughter. "Not sing? Yeah, but that's all anyone says you're good for. Come on then, show us." Another cadet banged his cup on the table like a drum. "Sing, aliens, sing for us." The janitor gripped his mop tighter, anger rising in his chest. He wanted to step in, but he knew if he interfered too soon, the twins would only draw more attention. Still, his eyes stayed fixed on them. The room grew louder with jeers. "Maybe their voices sound like broken engines," one shouted. "Or maybe they squeak like rats." The shorter twin's hands clenched into fists. Her eyes glimmered with tears, but she refused to let them fall. She turned toward her brother, a silent plea in her gaze. But he only shook his head slowly. "Not here," he whispered. "Not here." The cadet leader mocked, his voice sharp. "'Cause you can't do it? Or because you're afraid?" The laughter roared again. Trays clattered, cups hit the tables, and the noise grew so loud it drowned everything else. But in that storm of cruelty, the janitor stepped forward. "That's enough," he said quietly. But his voice cut like steel. The cadets turned, surprised that the invisible janitor had spoken. One of them smirked. "And what will you do, old man? Mop us to death?" Laughter exploded again, but the janitor didn't flinch. He looked directly at the twins, not the cadets. His voice was calm, steady. "You don't need to prove anything." To them, the cafeteria hushed for a brief moment. The twins stared at him, their faces pale, but their eyes wide. No one had ever defended them before, not against so many. The cadet leader scoffed. "You defend them? For what? They're useless. They can't fight, they can't lead, and they sure can't sing." The janitor finally turned his eyes too. "The cadet, you think strength is only measured in weapons and orders," he said. "But one day, you'll learn it can be found in places you never believed." The cadets snorted, rolling their eyes, but a thin thread of unease settled in the air. The janitor picked up his cart and wheeled it slowly toward the door. As he passed the twins, he gave them a small nod, steady, quiet, but full of meaning. The twins followed. Their heads held a little higher than before. When they stepped into the hallway, the noise of the cafeteria faded behind them. The shorter twin finally let out the breath she had been holding.
Why did you do that?
She asked the janitor, her voice trembling. He shrugged. Because someone had to. The taller twin frowned. They will not stop. They will laugh again. They will spread more lies. The janitor stopped and looked at them both. Let them. The truth doesn't change because fools laugh at it. A long time, none of them spoke. The hallway stretched ahead, empty and silent. But something had shifted. The twins no longer felt completely alone. Someone had stood up for them not because he wanted anything, but because he believed in them. That belief was fragile, like a candle in the dark. But it was enough to light their path. That night, when the academy slept, the twins returned to the storage room. The janitor was already waiting, leaning on his mop handle. Without words, they began to sing again. This time, their voices were not just soft confessions of fear. They were stronger, braver, filled with defiance. The walls trembled, the lights flickered, and the janitor felt his chest swell with pride. Mockery had tried to silence them, but the song had grown louder, and as the echoes filled the forgotten room, the janitor knew the academy had no idea what power it was dismissing. The academy slept. Lights dimmed in the corridors, patrol bots moved on quiet wheels, and the great station floated against the black ocean of stars.
Ow.
Most believed nothing ever happened after hours. But in one forgotten storage room, something was about to awaken. The janitor stood leaning against his cart, his hands folded over the mop handle. He had been waiting for them. And soon the alien twins stepped inside, their eyes flicking nervously toward the door before closing it shut. You came, the janitor said softly. The taller twin gave a slow nod. We owe you thanks for what you did at the cafeteria. The janitor waved a hand. I only spoke the truth. The shorter twin's gaze lingered on him. Then hear more truth tonight. What? We will not hold back. The janitor raised an eyebrow. He had heard their voices already beautiful. Yes, but strange too. What could be greater than that? The twins stood close together, facing each other as if to draw strength. They took a deep breath in unison, then opened their mouths at first. The notes were soft, almost delicate, like the brush of wind across glass. Then the sound deepened, layered, and grew. The janitor's chest vibrated as if someone had struck a giant drum inside his body. The crates rattled, dust lifted from the floor, and the very walls seemed to hum in reply. The janitor's eyes widened. He gripped the mop tighter to steady himself. It wasn't just music, it was force. The lights overhead flickered wildly, buzzing with energy. A broken chair in the corner shook, its legs clattering against the floor until one snapped clean off. The air itself seemed alive, waves rolling invisible through the room. Stop, the janitor gasped, though his voice was drowned in the flood of sound. The twins did not stop. Their eyes glowed faintly, silver and bright, their harmonies climbing. Higher, sharper, stronger. And then the old metal panel on the far wall cracked straight down the middle. The janitor's breath caught. His heart pounded. They hadn't touched it, hadn't moved toward it yet. Their voices had split solid steel. Finally, the song broke off. Silence rushed in, heavy and thick. The twins were breathing hard, sweat glistening faintly on their skin. The janitor leaned against his cart, stunned. His voice came out low and hoarse. Do you know what you just did? Da 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 da. The taller twin looked at the broken wall, then back at him. His face held no pride, only worry. This is why we hide. The shorter twin's voice was quieter, almost a whisper. They say music is useless. But our voices are not just music. They can harm, they can heal, they can change things. If the academy learns... She trailed off, shaking her head. The janitor stared at the cracked steel panel, the faint dust drifting from it. He had cleaned these halls for years, seen the strongest cadets train, watched officers command fleets. None of them had ever done something like this. You're right, he said finally. If they know, they won't call it a gift. They'll call it a weapon. The twins lowered their heads, Shame and fear pressed on their shoulders like heavy stones. But then the janitor stepped closer. His voice softened, steady but firm. Don't let them decide what your voices mean. You choose. Do you hear me? You choose. The twins looked. Up, eyes wide. Nobody had spoken to them like that before. The janitor continued, his chest still trembling from the echoes. I've seen the academy laugh at you, push you aside. I've seen them laugh at me too. But tonight, I know the truth. What you carry isn't weakness. It isn't shame. It's power. For the first time, the taller twin let a faint smile touch his lips. The shorter one blinked quickly, hiding the tear that escaped her eye. Will you keep our secret?
I...
Asked, the janitor didn't hesitate. Until my last breath, storage room fell quiet again, except for the soft hum of the cracked panel. The janitor gathered his cart and mop, but his heart felt heavier than ever. He had seen too much to ignore it now as he walked down the empty corridor. He realized one thing with certainty. If the academy ever discovered what the twins could do, everything would change. And though he was just a janitor, invisible to most, he knew he had stepped into something far greater than himself. The academy woke to an ordinary day, but the stars outside told a different story. Beyond the training fields, beyond the orbit of the great station, something was moving in the dark. Long-range sensors caught the first signal's distorted echoes, like claws scratching against the void. The officers dismissed them at first, calling them static. But the truth could not be hidden for long by evening. The alarm spread quietly through the command levels. An unknown ship was approaching. Big, fast, and not broadcasting any alliance. Codes down in the lower halls, the janitor heard whispers. Cadets marched faster than usual. Instructors spoke in hushed tones. Even the patrol bots moved with sharper speed. But nobody explained anything to him. To them, he was invisibly as always. He carried his cart through the corridor, but his thoughts were elsewhere. The image of the cracked metal panel from last night haunted him. The twins' voices still echoed in his chest. They had power, unlike anything he had ever seen, and now, with danger closing in, he feared the academy might soon discover it too. He found the twins in the shadowed storage room again. They were waiting for him, their faces pale with unease. They had heard the whispers too. What is happening? The shorter twin asked, her voice tight. The janitor leaned against the doorframe, lowering his voice. Shit coming this way. The officers don't know if it's hostile, but they're worried. The taller twin's eyes darkened. We have seen such ships before. On our world. The janitor frowned. You know them? The taller twin gave a slow nod. Raiders. They destroy, they take, they leave nothing. Our people fled from them long ago. If they come here, the academy is not ready. The janitors. Breath caught, looked around the dusty room, then back at them. Then there's no time. You two voices know, the shorter twin said quickly, shaking her head. If we sing in front of them, they will use us. We'll never be free again. The janitor stepped closer. His voice was gentle, but urgent. Listen. Don't want you trapped. I don't want them to use you either. But if those raiders attack, none of us may survive. You've seen what your voices can do. You can help. The twins looked at each other, fear mirrored in their eyes. The taller one clenched his fists. You ask us to risk everything? I ask you to choose, the janitor said softly. Not for them. For yourselves. For survival. The silence between them grew heavy. Outside the academy's intercom, buzzed with drills and orders, the hum of tension filled the entire station. Suddenly the lights flickered. A deep, low vibration rolled through the walls, rattling the floor. The janitor's heart skipped. That was no drill. The alarm blared across the academy. Unidentified vessel entering orbit. All cadets 2 stations. All personnel. Prepare for possible engagement. The twins froze. Their faces went pale. They are here. The taller twin whispered. The janitor gripped the mop handle so tightly, his knuckles whitened. He felt useless. Just a man with a cart and a mop in a war machine. But then he looked at the twins, and he knew the truth. The only hope lay in the voices nobody believed in. You can hide, he told them quickly. Stay silent. Stay safe. Or, he paused, his eyes firm. Or you can sing, and maybe save us all. The shorter twin's lips trembled. If we do this, they will know. Everyone will know. Yes, the janitor admitted. But they will also live. The alarm wailed louder, echoing through the halls. Outside the window, distant flashes of light marked the raider ships. Arrival, the janitor stepped back, giving them space. His heart pounded, fear clawing at him, but hope burning just as strong. It's your choice, he said. I can't make it for you. Twins stood close, whispering to each other in their own language. Their voices were quick, urgent, filled with fear. Then, finally, they turned back to him. The taller twin's face was set, his jaw tight. If we sing, it will not be for the academy. It will be for survival. For us. For you. The janitor gave a slow nod, pride flickering in his weary eyes. That's all I ask. The station shook again. The battle was coming. The academy was not ready, and as the twins prepared to use the voices they had hidden for so long, the janitor realized the truth. Sometimes the most powerful weapons were the ones nobody wanted to believe in. The station trembled as the raider ship drew closer. Sirens blared through the academy's halls, and cadets rushed in tight formations. Their boots pounding against the metal floors, instructors barked orders. Lights. Defense cannons rotated into position, their barrels glowing faintly as they charged. The janitor was swept aside in the chaos. Nobody looked at him. Nobody cared if he lived or died. But he knew something the officers didn't. The academy's defenses weren't enough. He had seen the twins' fear when they named the raiders. These were not ordinary pirates. They were destroyers. He pushed his cart through the crowded hallway until he reached the storage room. Twins were waiting, pale and silent there, eyes wide as the alarms echoed above them. They're here, the janitor said, his voice rough. The academy will fight, but it won't be enough. The taller twin clenched his fists. We should not be seen. The shorter twin's voice shook. But if we do nothing, everyone will fall. The janitor stepped closer, his face lined with urgency. Then don't do it for them. Do it for yourselves. Sing because you refuse to let raiders decide your fate. The twins looked at him, torn between terror and resolve. The station shook again as the first blast struck the outer shields. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere far away, cadets shouted in panic. The shorter twin suddenly straightened. Her voice was quiet but firm. We will sing. The taller twin hesitated, then nodded. But you must stand with us. You must not let them take us afterward. The janitor swallowed hard. He was only a man with a mop and tired hands, but he looked them in the eyes and said, I'll stand with you. The twins stepped to the center of the room, side by side. They closed their eyes, took a breath together, and opened their mouths. At first, the sound was soft, a trembling note, fragile as glass, but then it grew, layer upon layer, until it filled the room like a storm. The janitor staggered back, gripping the wall as the air itself vibrated. The song poured out, not in words, but in pure resonance. The floor shook. The cracked wall from before split wider, jagged lines racing across the metal. Lights flickered wildly,
Ali,
bursting one by one until the room was lit only by the twins' faintly glowing eyes. Beyond the walls, the sound traveled through the academy's steel bones, racing into the hangars, the control rooms, the very shields themselves. Officers at their stations froze as their instruments spiked with impossible readings. The cadets stopped mid-march, stunned by the tremor that passed through the air, and outside, in the void, the raider ship felt it too. The twins' song struck the enemy vessel like an invisible wave. Its weapons shuddered, energy blasts misfired, shields flickered. The hull groaned as if under the weight of a giant unseen hand. The janitor watched, his heart hammering. He could feel it not just sound, but force. The song was bending metal, jamming systems, rewriting the very air around them. The twins pushed harder, their voices weaving together in perfect harmony. Sweat rolled down their faces, their bodies trembling under the strain. The song was not just leaving them, it was taking from them too. Enough, the janitor shouted, afraid they would collapse. But they didn't stop. Outside the window, the raider ship convulsed under the pressure. Its engines sputtered, its weapons died, and the glow of its shields broke apart like shattered glass. With one final piercing note, the twins released a wave that rippled across space. The raider ship froze in place, and piece by piece, its systems went dark. The massive vessel drifted, powerless, caught in the silent grip of the twins' voices. The song ended. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. The twins collapsed to their knees, gasping for air, their throats raw, their faces pale. Janitor rushed forward, kneeling beside them. "You did it," he whispered, awe filling his voice. "You stopped them." The shorter twin looked up at him, her eyes wet with tears. "Now they will know, all of them." The janitor's chest tightened. He could already hear the pounding of boots in the distance, officers and cadets rushing to find the source of the power that had just saved them. He glanced at the twins, then toward the door. His heart pounded with a single truth. The Academy would never see them as singers. From now on, they would be weapons, and he would have to fight to keep them free. The station was silent after the storm. The alarms had stopped, the weapons had cooled, and the raider ship drifted dead in orbit like a broken shadow. Cadets who had once laughed now whispered in uneasy tones. Officers checked their instruments. Again and again, unable to explain what had happened. Everyone knew something impossible had saved them, but nobody knew who, not yet. In the storage room, the janitor knelt beside the twins. Their breathing was heavy, their voices worn to whispers. Sweat streaked their faces, but their eyes still glowed faintly, like embers refusing to die. "Save them all," the janitor said softly. The taller twin shook his head. "Not for them. For us. For you." The janitor's chest tightened. He had spent his life as a shadow in the Academy's halls, unseen and unneeded. But now, two alien twins, the ones mocked, dismissed, and forgotten, had trusted him enough to sing for survival, and their song had reshaped everything. The door burst open. Officers and cadets stormed in, weapons raised, eyes wide. They stopped at the sight, the broken walls, the flickering lights, on the twins on their knees. One officer's voice was sharp. "What happened here?" The janitor stood quickly, stepping in front of the twins. His voice was firm, steady, louder than it had ever been. "They happened, and they saved you." The room went still. Cadets exchanged looks, some with disbelief, others with fear. The same ones who had mocked the twins in the cafeteria now stared at them as if they were looking at something alien, something dangerous. The officer lowered his weapon slowly. "Their voices?" "Yes," the janitor said. "Their voices stopped the raiders when your weapons could not." Murmurs spread like fire. Some cadets whispered impossible. Others muttered, "Weapon," word twisted in the air. Heavy and cold, the shorter twin shrank back, her hand clutching her brother's arm. The taller one stared at the ground, his jaw tight. They had feared this moment, and it was here. "They are not weapons," the janitor snapped, his eyes blazing. "They are singers, heroes. If you call them anything less, you dishonor the ones who saved your lives." The officer hesitated. Respect for survival weighed against fear of the unknown. Finally, he gave a curt nod. "For now, they are honored." The janitor heard the edge in his voice. For now, the cadets stepped aside as medics arrived, offering water and blankets to the twins. Whispers filled the air, admiration mixed with suspicion. The Academy had been shaken to its core. Later that night, when the noise had faded and the station returned to uneasy quiet, the janitor sat with the twins in the same storage room. They huddled together, tired but alert. "They will not let." "USB," the taller twin said. "They will come again, asking for our voices." The janitor nodded slowly. "Yes, they will." The shorter twin looked at him, her eyes wide. "What will we do?" He leaned back against the cracked wall, his mop resting beside him like a soldier's weapon. "We'll decide when the time comes. But listen to me. Your voices belong to you, not to them. You sing when you choose, not when they command." The twins exchanged a glance. For the first time since he had met them, there was something in their eyes other than fear, a small, fragile flame of trust. The janitor smiled, faintly. Nobody believed in you. Nobody believed in me.
Oh.
But maybe that's why we found each other. The shorter twin leaned closer. You will stay with us? Always, he said. They fell into silence, the hum of the station surrounding them. But as the janitor closed his eyes, something strange touched his ears. It was faint, distant-like. An echo not from the twins, but from beyond the walls, beyond the stars. Another song? His eyes snapped open. The twins looked at him, startled. They had heard it too. It was not coming from them. Somewhere out there, in the deep silence of space, another voice was answering. The janitor's blood ran cold. He whispered the truth none of them wanted to face. You're not the only ones. With that, the story was no longer about survival. It was about what came next.